Hare Krishna. Welcome back to 50 years in ISKCON. We're now heading towards, I think this is part 32, and coming towards the end, bring us up to today. But we started to do from 2015 to 2019 in the last talk I gave, 31, and we got up to about 2017. So this is just continuing on 17, 18, 19. So my obeisances. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tinamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskacha Desatarane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so 2017 or around that time. Well, things were happening in our family. My husband, as I explained before, he had Parkinson's, and so that doesn't go away, and it's a gradual decline. Fortunately, it has been gradual. It's not always, but it's come to a point where he had to resign from the BRC, or the Bhaktivedanta Research Center in Calcutta, which I described in a previous talk of this fabulous project, and very important project, and something that Srila Prabhupada really wanted. And so it's wonderful that he got that going. And it is continuing on amazing expansion and wonderful plans for the future. So, it's not an easy thing as you get older, and if you have significant illness, to just let go of, things that you've done for years. I also, around this time, I was forced to stop doing all these outfits that I'd been doing for like 40 years. I still kept doing for one temple, although not in the way that we used to do it, when we were developing these deity outfit making facility. We had to sit there with the artist and draw things out and try different ways of doing it, different materials. It was a whole meditation, and it was a lot of work. Nowadays, because, many samples were made in the few beginning places, and those spread out to other places, and now people just go in and see a sample and they say, I'll take one of those. So it's quite different. So now I was just, doing the same thing the other people were doing, just so that Italy Temple could continue. They didn't have anyone to take care of that. So I was going on with that. But, it's a big adjustment. We go through different phases of life. And now, very clearly we're moving into our old age, and that is, of course, it's not the same for everyone. I know many God brothers and sisters who are just, going even faster than ever. And that is wonderful to see, but it's not the same for everybody. And so that's a challenge, to not be able to do the services that you previously did. Like, what do we do now? Because our identity, even in spiritual life, it's often very much linked to our service, what we do. I'm the one that makes the deity dresses, or I'm the one that, does this or that. And then when you can't do that anymore, well, who am I? How do I serve Krishna? And I think a lot of people in their old age come up to this challenge. And although it may initially feel a little scary, ultimately, if Krishna has given you that situation, it can be extremely helpful to go deeper, focus more internally on internal development. And, you know, because sometimes we can just run around and be busy and feel like we're very Krishna conscious. But when you stop running around, where are we? What do we really think about? You know, what do we feel for Krishna? And so, you know, it's not a bad thing, but definitely if Krishna gives it, it must be what we need. And can't say it's easy, that's for sure. I'm adjusting slowly over time. And so this, like by 2017, the TOVP Mayapur superstructure was pretty much finished around that time. And it was really quite amazing and scary to see this mammoth, huge thing just rising up in the middle of the project, you know. But it's a big change. And so this year, this is a great year for me in that finally I got the Narottam book to the printer. I mean, the title is actually The Glorious Life of Srila Narottam Das Thakur. But, you know, to make it easy, we'll call it the Narottam book. And so I sent that to the printer in this year, and I sent a few hundred copies to Vrindavan for the upcoming Kartik Prikrama, because Narottam Das Thakur's disappearance day, it falls during Kartik. So that was a great opportunity for me. So on this special day, we had a most wonderful program at the ashram of Pundarik Goswami, who is one of the Goswamis linked with the Radharaman temple and who is a very close friend with Andradumna Swami. So he just gives us his place. It's very nice. And so I gave the talk and introduced the book to a few hundred devotees, many of them Russian. And, you know, this new experience of, you know, well, having a book and being the main speaker at big events, you know, well, that was pretty challenging for me. I was not a class giver over the decades, and not because I wasn't allowed to, it's because I didn't really have a desire to. But Andradumna Maharaj, who I've known since the day, you know, he joined in Detroit. You know, we've kind of always been somehow connected. But he, you know, sort of pushed me into this spotlight. I mean, he pushed me to do the book, to even print it. I wouldn't have done any of these things. And if you know him, you know that, you know, you don't say no to him, not because he's intimidating or pushy at all. It's just the opposite. It's because he's so enthusiastic and he's so encouraging and so wants to see others, you know, reach higher and, you know, stretch ourselves to increase our service. And that is truly a blessing, to have someone in your life who, you know, believes in your potential and doesn't take no for an answer. And so I'm very grateful for his kindness to me throughout my devotional life. And, you know, because I am, as I've met, I am an introvert by nature, even though, you know, I'm doing these talks, whatever. But, you know, it's not my nature. My nature is I would just want to be in a corner I don't want people looking at me. So it's kind of a torture. But I came to see this as a very beneficial torture, you know, because initially I used to just be nervous and stressed and even feel sick before I would have to give a talk, you know. But I came to understand that as soon as I just forget myself and click into the consciousness that, you know, this is not at all about me, then as soon as I begin to speak, it just goes away. All that goes away. No feelings at all of uncertainty or ego stuff. And that's really a relief, because, you know, we just want to be an instrument. I mean, that's what we're trying to do in devotional life, and there is nothing higher than that. But, you know, often we have to get out of the way so that we can, Krishna can, you know, use use us as an instrument, you know. And, you know, also like having to sell a book, that was a new thing, and also challenging. First of all, I never thought of this project as having anything to do with finances. But, you know, you can't print a book and distribute it without considering all these things, you know. But again, not really my nature. So to have to start to sell, you know, I remember I was not a very good Sankirtan devotee because, you know, I just didn't like to sell things. Yes, I had to push myself always, and you know, and I had to adjust to that. And what to speak of how uncomfortable it was initially to sign the books. I never even thought of, you know, doing that. But all the okay, line up, everyone come and buy the books, and you have to sign them. And I'm like, what? Sign them? What for? But it's just how it's done. I don't know how this tradition started, but the devotees just, you know, they just want that, and they just expect it, you know. So, especially because Andradumna Maharaj, who is such a Narottam Das Thakur enthusiast, he was just really pumping it up, telling everyone, you must get this book. Even though half of the audience is Russian. And he said, no, it doesn't matter if you don't speak English. You can learn English by getting this book. You should, you know, take a few, give it to your friends. So he was the best promoter. And so consequently, I did sell, you know, like a couple hundred of books in, you know, half an hour. And my hand was so cramped I could hardly move it afterwards. But what an ecstatic experience. Really just to see that the devotees were genuinely, you know, so eager to, you know, dive into this Narottam Katha. And, you know, I just really felt that there was definitely a special mercy that was flowing by engaging with this particular great Acharya, you know, that to make him more known in the community of devotees. And I see it as if, you know, as if Lord Chaitanya, he just made an arrangement to glorify his devotee. Because daily, you know, we owe him so much. Daily, we are with him through songs, you know, every day, Guru Puja. He's singing to Lokanath Goswami. And we sing, you know, when we hear these words now, you know, after we know more about him, it's more meaningful. Or when we hear him, Ramachandra Sangha Mage Narottama Das, you know, he's singing to his friends. He's singing to his dear friends. And so when we know about his loving relationships and his deep friendships, it just brings more meaning into our daily experience. You know, when we sing these songs, that it doesn't become too mechanical or just, dry routine, that, that we can feel more connected and feel their presence. And that is encouraging. That's encouraging. So it was truly blissful that the book finally came out. As I explained previously, I started it decades before, and then I just let it sit for many reasons. And anyway, now that it's out at this time, I realized I was so glad that it took me so long to do it. And the reason is that it gave me an extended chance, to think about, talk about, research about this great personality, and to understand our history better. And that just made me appreciate him so much more than if I had just, quickly thrown together something and printed it and, that done. So, you see that this is one of the downsides of our modern society, that everything, it's become so easily and quickly available. Everything's so convenient. But a lot gets lost when things are, so quick and cheap. When things are happening so fast, we just don't have the time to delve deeply, to savor, and to consider things from different angles, and to really appreciate and to think. And, just think of the difference of how it used to be. People would walk across the entire country on foot to visit a holy place. And you imagine what it's like. It's very different than just jumping on a plane or getting in a taxi. Walking and walking and pondering and anticipating for so long, thinking about arriving in Vrindavan. And by the time you reach, you've built up such eagerness and excitement and appreciation that you can really savor the experience deeply. And, I had this experience when I did the first Brajmana Parikrama, just how different it was to just stay out in Braj for a month, not just going out for the day. I mean, I had spent a lot of time in Vrindavan, but through this I thought, oh my God, I've hardly ever really been here. It's so different when you just stay and you just keep walking. It's like you're just going deeper and deeper, in a way that I never experienced before, because you're taking the time and you're having no distractions. You have nothing else to do, nothing but to walk and to be in Braj and chant and hear and nothing else. It's a very revealing experience, very amazing. So, in this sense, I'm glad it took a long time to get this book out, because it forced me to pay more attention and to learn so many things, important lessons, and to appreciate what a pleasure and an honor it is to speak about our acharyas, and how important it is for us to take advantage of their grace and their presence, because it is through the mercy of these perfected devotees. I mean, there's so many verses, there's so many stories, and all throughout Shastra, that explaining that it is through the mercy of the perfected devotees that we learn everything about the bhakti path. Through their lives, we see how bhakti is done by a pro. You know, when you see how they lived, the challenges they faced, you know, the unique strategies they employed, and just the limits of love they demonstrated, you know, they can become our role models, our great heroes. We can see a person who's actually done this, who has actually conquered the material energy and gained entrance into the spiritual realm. It happens. It's a reality. You know, and everyone needs these kind of heroes, you know. I mean, that's why, you know, the superhero genre is so popular, even in the mundane realm. Somebody that you can look to that can do amazing things. Because, you know, through them we can see what it takes. And we understand that they have the greatest power because they have the greatest humility. And, you know, they show that prema and humility, or dainya, they coexist in the pure devotee. They must. There's no pure devotee without these two elements. We cannot have one without the other. You know, just like we know, you know, even in the story of like Lokanath Goswami, when Narottam came and he wanted Lokanath Goswami to be his spiritual master. And Sri Jiva told him, I don't think it's going to happen, because he just doesn't want to do this. He doesn't see himself as qualified. He doesn't want to be guru. He doesn't want to be honored. He doesn't, you know, and Narottam's just puzzled. How can he think he's so great? How can he think that he's not qualified? And, you know, similarly, Lokanath Goswami was looking at Narottam and was puzzled by his humility. What is he doing? He's cleaning up where I've gone to pass. I mean, he's a prince. He's a very special person, you know. What is he doing? You know, so this manifestation of humility, it just has to be there, or no prema. So anyway, we can understand that taking shelter of our acharyas, it is a key to the way forward. Our spiritual progress is dependent on this connection, on getting the mercy. And Chaitanya Charitamrita says, I don't know the exact verse, but it says that association with advanced devotees is the root cause of devotional service. It's the root cause of devotional service. And Chaitanya Bhagavat, many times, Vrindavan Das Thakur talks about the power of even just saying the names of such great devotees. It has so much Shakti. You know, because they open the door for us when the time is right, whenever that may be, maybe millions of lifetimes away, but it is them who will open the door. And, you know, because we are part of Lord Chaitanya's mission, however small part we may be, but to be successful in the mission, you know, it behooves us to see how it was done successfully by our ancestors. Especially, we learn, you know, so much from the life of Narottam Das Thakur, because he was given this huge mission, the first time to distribute books. And so here he was, imagine the responsibility of that, to be basically entrusted with carrying the heart of Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and others. And so it's instructive. It's instructive to see how he did it and the strategies that he used, what he did differently to succeed. Because that's an acharya. Each acharya is born in a particular social, political, religious climate. And each has to figure out how to spread the mission. Actually, it's really an interesting study to see how the different strategies that were employed by different acharyas, starting from Lord Chaitanya, all the way through. It's clear that this is a dynamic process. And Narottam Das Thakur, he utilized unique ways to make Krishna consciousness more accessible and relevant to his times. And, so much could be said about that. But just, a few points that his songwriting that we now just take for granted, it's there, but that was a very unique strategy that he was going to write songs in the vernacular and sing them in the language that local people could understand. And he would explain everything in those songs, right from the very, very basic things in Krishna consciousness, right up to the topmost, highest pinnacle of understanding, through song. And, so that could easily spread, village to village. People learn these songs, And we also see how another thing, how he dealt with very heavy opposition for what he was doing. And that is, obviously, it's very relevant. It's something every preacher is going to face. As soon as you become a preacher, for sure, you're going to face some opposition and prejudice from somewhere, and very likely create some often powerful enemies. That was there so much with Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, what to speak of Srila Prabhupada, and even our devotees nowadays, Andradunva Swami's diaries are filled with this kind of challenge and conflict that we face, and Narottam faced so much opposition. He was viciously attacked, yet he never retaliated or saw himself as a victim of abuse. His heart just went out to all because of deep, deep compassion, and due to having no false ego. When there's no false ego, there's no need to defend oneself. It's just not there. No chemistry. And so when those who, wanted to bring him down, they came to meet him, he didn't hold it against them, any more than a mother would get angry at a child for passing stool. Just ignorance. So, it's not, the person is not the enemy, but that ignorance needs to be removed. And so Narottam, he humbly welcomed them and showed his mercy, and he melted their hearts. And so just being in his presence, their prejudice, their fear, their animosity, everything, it just, fell away just by being in his presence. So, he's showing the power of character, how profoundly it affects people. And, we know hundreds of stories of how Srila Prabhupada changed people's hearts by, a simple glance, or just entering into a room, or just lifting his arms. He could make a whole room full of people start to jump. And that is not hype or exaggeration. It's a special Shakti that is described in different Shastra. And in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, I have a quote here that the mere presence of those who constantly meditate on your lotus feet vanquishes all inauspiciousness. As such persons dance, the touch of their lotus feet destroys all the inauspiciousness of the world. Think about that. By their glance, the 10 directions are purified. Such is the power of your servants, that when they dance with their arms raised, the disturbances in the heavenly planets are destroyed. Just see this Shakti. This is a real thing. And we saw that. We saw that with Prabhupada. And Prabhupada would say over and over, purity is a force. You know, love, real love, not the cheap word that we use here in this world. You know, it can push back thousands of years of prejudice. So Narottam showed also, he showed us the power of kirtan. You know, that he actually brought, by his heartfelt kirtan, the entire Panchatattva and the associates. He brought them to be present in the kirtan in Khetri. Not just, and everyone could see, not just like the most exalted devotees. Everyone saw this happen. And, you know, so naturally he's known as the king of kirtan for very good reasons. Because, you know, he shows us the depth of loving relationships amongst Vaishnavas. So much in his life is about his friends and about the love between them. And he also showed us, you know, the highest potential of love, you know, the ultimate in intimacy, you know, and that we know it's what everyone is seeking in this world. You know, every movie, every book, you know, it's looking for intimate love. And, you know, on departing this world, Narottam Das Thakur, his heart didn't just melt. Sometimes we hear of somebody's heart just melted. His entire body actually physically melted. That is a fact. So that is not even, it's not possible to comprehend. The intensity of experience, of emotion that could just, you know, melt the body. I mean, his Dudh Samadhi or his milk Samadhi is there at the home of Ganga Narayan Chakravarti. This is a real thing. You know, so anyway, I didn't mean for this to be a class about Narottam Das Thakur. It wasn't my intention. But, you know, this is what was going on for me in 2017. And, you know, because, you know, it was enlightening. You know, I just wanted to emphasize here the importance, you know, how important it is for all of us to remember that, you know, through their hard work, through their persistence, through their brilliance and purity and determination, they brought changes about that made it possible for us. I mean, years ago, it would be impossible. But because of what they did, you know, little nobodies from Malechadesh, you know, could come to Krishna consciousness, you know, that, you know, they made it possible to reach us in these dark places where this mercy had never reached before. So it is important that we do not take for granted what we've been given. Again, now, it's easy access. We just go to Vrindavan, deities are there, books are there, kirtan festivals, and, even we complain about, they didn't, there wasn't enough space at the festival, or, whatever it is, the prasadam wasn't great, But it is miraculous that we have these things. And it is important that we don't forget that, and that we don't have some sense of entitlement or something, like spoiled children that have wealthy parents. So if we study history, it will make us more appreciative and more grateful for what we have. And that gratitude, that mentality, that moves us towards love. And it does inspire us to stop trying to just squeeze some juice from this material realm, where, that better to set our sights much, much higher, and, to move towards the ocean of love, the ocean of bhakti, that these devotees are swimming in and diving and going deep in, and, stop just standing on the shore and wondering whether we should dip our little toe in. So anyway, I'm mentioning all of this, bringing all of this up because, it's kind of was the fruit, these thoughts, and realizations to some extent. It was the fruit of doing this book, to actually get a much better understanding and appreciation of the power of making personal connection with our previous acharyas. And of course, this led me to study, not just Narottam Das Thakur, but our other acharyas as well, and to understand our history better, and Srila Prabhupada better, and to understand our own place in all of this better. And, because all of this was kind of on my mind a lot during this year particularly, it became the focus of my Vyasa Puja offering that year, which is really, it's just more of a reflection and glorification, or focusing on appreciating the strategies each acharya, especially Srila Prabhupada, used to push bhakti further into the public domain. So I don't know if it'll be boring for you, but I'm just going to go ahead and read. I have I have that offering here. I'll just read through it. I hope it's not, anyway, hope it's worthwhile reading it. But, I'm sharing what I was going through, and this reflects, it's not just about what we were doing and where we were going, it's what we're thinking about, what we're realizing, what is happening in the heart. And, that changes over time. And so anyway, these are some thoughts of mine during this time. And I'll just read that. So during Vyasa Puja celebrations, we try to show, or we try to convey, a portrait of Srila Prabhupada, or at least we attempt to paint a few strokes to highlight a particular aspect of the vast portrait, or the picture of the various aspects of Srila Prabhupada's character. So today I would like to highlight, or at least make a few brushstrokes, to show how Srila Prabhupada was a master strategist. A strategist, by definition, is someone skilled in planning the best way to gain an advantage or to achieve success, especially in war. He is one who devises a plan that guarantees a series of stunning victories. And indeed, This is a perfect definition that truly fits Srila Prabhupada. Every true spiritual warrior who is dedicated to pushing back the forces of Maya must prepare for that battle by first receiving empowerment from his superiors and then devising a strategy to push forward the mission, making way for bhakti to infiltrate. To devise an effective strategy, a preacher can't simply regurgitate dogma, but must be relevant and alive to the times. What works at one time may not be effective at another time. For example, in World War I, trench warfare was highly effective. But in World War II, with the advance of aircrafts and communication systems, they needed new strategies because the trenches now, they were just death traps. So as, Srila Prabhupada often quoted Srila Rupa Goswami, Yena tena prakarena mana Krishna nivesayat, that a spiritual master should devise means by which people may somehow or other come to Krishna consciousness. And also from Rupa Goswami, he said a preacher has to be innovative in spreading the message of Krishna consciousness according to the time, the place, and the circumstance, without compromising the tradition. So each of our acharyas, from the six Goswamis, Narottam Das Thakur, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, they all applied different strategies to push back Maya's influence. In the mundane world, warring forces are fueled by aggression and ambition, but the war of these great acharyas is fueled entirely by compassion. They wage war on the misconceptions that block the vision of the conditioned souls, and they break down those walls so that the lost conditioned souls may glimpse the beauty of Krishna. And Narottam Das Thakur, he waged his war with the bombs of radical compassion. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he waged his war at an extremely challenging juncture in history. His first strategy was to prepare himself by performing 9 years of intense bhajan. Finally, he had a dreamlike revelation in which the Panchatattva spoke to him saying, Saraswati, why are you worrying? Begin the task of establishing Shuddha Bhakti. Distribute Gauravani universally. Expand service to Gauranam, Gauradham, and Gaurakam. With unbreached enthusiasm, broadcast bhakti. Immeasurable opulence and boundless scholarship awaits the blessing to serve your mission. All will manifest when required. Come forward with full strength to distribute the message of Mahaprabhu's Prem Dharma throughout the globe. No worldly hindrance or menace will be able to obstruct this undertaking of yours. We are forever with you. Imagine those words. So with these incredibly encouraging words, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati set forth to establish his new and unique mission. And he went to great extremes and was very innovative in making Krishna consciousness available to the widest audience. And it was a challenging time with rational scientific thought flooding the continent and the British missionaries ridiculing the Indian ways and the many new Hindu reform movements cropping up, attempting to adapt with the Western outlook. And meanwhile, the Bhakti movement was just relegated to obscurity because of not being followed properly. And in the midst of this, unfavorable environment, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta devised unique strategies to influence different classes, which were key to his successful mission. He started the widespread printing of bhakti literatures in English, which were so erudite that they beat the English at their own game. They were trying to make the Indians look stupid. Well, Bhaktisiddhanta could make them look stupid. And he utilized the principle of yukta vairagya, using cars and clothing and going overseas. And he went to extreme lengths to dialogue with British diplomats and created massive theistic displays using dolls, toys, and mechanized devices. And he organized massive parikramas of Navadvip Dham and Vrindavan Dham and started a hard institution wherein he initiated by quality, not caste, and introduced the sannyas ashram. In so many ways, he demonstrated the importance of strategic planning in spreading the Sankirtan movement. In a similar way, following exactly in the footsteps of his Gurudev, Srila Prabhupada prepared for his mission for many years. First, he was called in dreams by Bhaktisiddhanta to take sannyas, which Prabhupada initially didn't want to do. And he was called again, but he did answer that call. And then he went to Vrindavan, where he performed great austerities, translated the Srimad Bhagavatam. And while living at Vamsi Gopal temple, Srila Rupa Goswami called him in a dream. And so he soon moved to Radha Damodar temple, where he begged for the empowerment before the samadhi of Rupa Goswami daily. And it's said that Srila Rupa Goswami, it is said that Srila Rupa Goswami appeared to Srila Prabhupada and encouraged him to push forward, to preach the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, saying, "You'll be successful, I guarantee, because I will be right with you all the time." Now, at one point, my husband, Harisori Prabhu, he wanted to verify if this story was true. So, he asked Srila Prabhupada at an opportune moment, waiting for the right time, is it true that Srila Rupa Goswami appeared to you, Srila Prabhupada? And Prabhupada just brushed the question aside. He said, "Oh, everyone knows that." And, so empowered with the blessings of his spiritual master, Rupa Goswami and Advaita Acharya at Shantipur, Srila Prabhupada devised his battle strategy. And following exactly in his Gurudev's footsteps, Srila Prabhupada constantly strategized from even the earliest days, making many efforts to push forward the mission. First trying in Jhansi, creating the League of Devotees, and translating the Srimad Bhagavatam, printing BTG, and not finding success that he hoped for. He changed strategies and he decided to go to America, reasoning that they're the leading country now. If they take this up, others will follow. And, that was a bold and risky strategy. And after much difficulty, when Srila Prabhupada finally did arrive in America, he spent the first year scanning the field of battle. One devotee once said to Prabhupada, in the first year that you were here, you didn't really have much to do. And Prabhupada's eyes opened wide and he said, "Oh, I was very busy." And so the devotee said, "Oh, well, what did you do?" And Prabhupada said, "I was studying the American people." And from that careful observation, Srila Prabhupada devised strategies that would bring him stunning victories in pushing Mahaprabhu's mission forward. You know, with his arsenal of weapons of the holy name, Prasadam, Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada managed to disarm a difficult foe, a generation of young people who didn't trust anyone over 30, who were cynical of all authority figures, who had rejected organized religion along with its moral regulations, and who were hell-bent on siding with Maya's call to unlimited sense indulgence. But Srila Prabhupada had a most powerful secret weapon, and that was his deep, loving glance. This was a weapon that could penetrate even the darkest hearts and blast right to the core of a person's being. I know this from personal experience. And the effect was that one would just drop to his knees, drop his defenses, and surrender at his feet. And in this way, he conquered hearts with love. And the war was over for many. So Srila Prabhupada's strategic plan included, creating the Sunday Love Feast, marrying his disciples, and sending the young Grihastha couples to spread the mission, engaging the young girls, giving Brahminical initiation to both the boys and girls, and establishing deity worship, sending out Sankirtan parties to chant the holy names and distribute books, starting the BBT, introducing Rath Yatra, creating devotional music and devotional art, establishing a GBC, creating the Bhaktivedanta Institute, encouraging massive prasadam distribution, opening farms for cow protection and simple living, starting life membership, bringing his foreign disciples back to India to attract the Indian population, and so much more in a decade. It is just amazing. Now, we have these things now, but they did not exist. Prabhupada created these things. These were his strategies. All these were unique and powerful tactics for infiltrating the world with Krishna consciousness. And Srila Prabhupada expected this to continue. He would say, tax your brains how to spread this movement. To gain all these victories, Srila Prabhupada faced enormous challenges from beginning to end. Yet, being a heroic, strategic warrior, he never gave up. Determined, he said he wanted to fight like Arjuna till his last breath, and indeed he did. I witnessed this when he finally lay on his bed in Vrindavan, much like Bhishma Dev on his bed of arrows, utterly spent, his body completely emaciated, hardly able to speak. In that condition, he continued to shoot the arrows of his Bhaktivedanta purports to crush Maya's influence. Just unbelievable. Srila Prabhupada, as the glorious, heroic warrior and master strategist, is just one angle from which to view his portrait. There are so many angles, and yet he still remains a mystery. And we can understand him only as much as he allows us, according to our individual advancement. It is an ongoing process of revelation. In 1968, one disciple shared an interesting perspective on Srila Prabhupada. On a morning walk, Yamuna Devi said to Srila Prabhupada, Swamiji, Janaki Devi wrote me a very nice letter where she describes a dream that she had. she saw that there was a gigantic platform above the surface of the earth. And all of our devotees, our God brothers and sisters, and you were assembled on this gigantic platform for Sankirtan. And we had such a thunderous, joyous, magnificent kirtan that the whole earth was affected. And then when you said Jayam Paramahansa Parvajaka Acharya, the whole earth bowed down to you. And we were all crying and so happy. And then you said, now my Guru Maharaj is satisfied. That was her dream. What a dream. And Prabhupada replied, thank you very much. Yes. Thank you for your dreaming like that. It is very pleasing to me. Yes, I want to see like that. So we pray that this dream will come to pass, that gradually the beautiful portrait of Srila Prabhupada will become more and more visible to us and to the whole world at large, that eventually historians, sociologists, religionists will acknowledge the glory of his countenance and his powerful and purifying influence on the world, that he is indeed that predicted Senapati, or great general, who came to fulfill the prediction of Sriman Mahaprabhu. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So that was my Vyasa Puja that year. Just sharing thoughts, really. It wasn't really directed to Prabhupada, but just sharing thoughts with the devotees. Because these were things that were just on my mind more this year. I guess sparked off in part from, all the engagement with the Narottam book, but also I think in these years, realizing, getting older and going through various challenges and, having to give up different services, traveling, speaking, changing services, changing bodies. I was trying to understand more deeply, our history and where our movement is going, where it came from, where it's going, and where I'm going. So these are things that were going on for me in this time. And so after Kartik, in the winter of 2017, I might have started going there earlier, maybe 2016, I don't know. But I started going regularly to Australia, to the New Govardhan farm, which I've described previously as a fabulous, beautiful project. Because the winters in Mayapur, I would get severe asthma and really just be sick all winter. And I finally decided, what is the point of being here and being sick all the time? So, it was summer in Australia when it's winter in Mayapur. So it was a good change of environment for me. And there, I give some regular classes, and I lived in a tiny room in the Brahmacharini quarters. It's a very unique kind of quarters where it's almost like a train, with compartments. So there's these two long, I think it was built for construction workers that are in the outback or something. And they're just these tiny little rooms, big enough for a bed, a little desk, a little cupboard, and a bathroom. And to me, that's fantastic. What else do you need? I really like simple life with little possessions and less complexity, It's nice. And then there was a whole middle area, so it was like, a U shape, well, square, not really U, section where there was a common area with a big kitchen and a nice place where you could gather together. So, the girls had privacy, but they were also together, so it's good. I liked it. And, I know that it's not as common or popular nowadays, for people to go into ashrams, especially ladies' ashrams. There's less and less. I don't even know if there's hardly any left. But I still think ashrams are very important and often very useful and wonderful experience for both young and old even. If they're designed and run properly. Because nowadays with most of our devotees coming from congregation and living as congregation, I've seen that there's often a real lack of training or lack of knowledge of how to practice just in very practical ways. What you learn when you first come into the ashram, roll up your sleeping bag, wash your area, so many things. Vaishnava behaviors and things that we easily learn in that situation. And I don't know, I think that for many have never experienced what it's like to live, with your days just filled only with devotional service. And I think most people need that experience at some time in their life or in some way where they really get the full bhakti lifestyle, how you do it, And I know that many devotees agree with this, that it's something that's diminished over time for many reasons. But recently, other devotees who have noticed the need for devising various kind of ashram type environments to give that facility to people. Like Kalakanta Prabhu in Florida, he developed all of his own, this unique Krishna House program that's designed for college students and just super successful. So there are ways to do it, and I think on into the future I hope that more and more people understand, figure out ways and means to do things, yena kena prakarena, as we said. Other ways, that people can really experience, really immerse themselves and really get training. It's essential. So during these years, 2016, 17, 18, 19, during these years I was more busy with regular traveling. I do the Kartik Parikrama in the fall, Australia in the winter, summer on the Polish festival tour. And with the need now to promote and sell the Narottam book, I was traveling a little, went to the USA and some places in Europe. I went to the Sadhu Sangha Festival in the United States for the first time, and that was a fantastic experience. And yet another challenge of having to give a talk to a large audience. But, more and more I'm loving to share the glories of Narottam Das Thakur more and more. And, it's starting to be very relishable. And so this extended travel, it gave me nice opportunities for new places, make new connections and new relationships and see what's going on in different places. Yet I always feel eager to get back to the Dham, but spending time away does increase that appreciation and gratitude for living there. But these new travels and service also brought a kind of new experience of being honored, especially when visiting kind of more remote temples that don't get many senior devotees, especially women, visiting. So it was not unusual that they would be very respectful, very appreciative of a visit, and they would give, some special honor And of course, that's natural, and it's also, it's uplifting. It's encouraging to be appreciated, and to feel that you can be helpful, to others. But I also, something to be wary of, as I could just see, it's so ridiculously easy to let any praise increase one's, false pride. And, Srila Prabhupada said, even a pauper, if he has a penny, he's proud of his penny. So, this thing of wanting to be the center, wanting honor or recognition, this is really the root cause of our being stuck in material existence. So, receiving honor and recognition, it can be dangerous. And of course, what I was experiencing was very minimal. I can't even imagine how, sannyasis and gurus and GBCs deal with having, constantly thousands of people falling at their feet. And I don't know, sometimes I think it might be more advantageous to be in a woman's body where you don't get so much of that, not the challenge of excessive praise, a little safer place. There are some perks being in this female form. But then, when I went at one temple, the entire community of devotees was there waiting for my car to come and to greet me, and and then they were throwing flower petals, when I came out of the car, and I was like, whoa, this is just too much. And, I felt that I had to speak with the devotees about this. I had to explain, that, yeah, it's important to respect senior devotees, but, it's also, it shouldn't be overdone. I don't know, these are my feelings, But, everyone or anyone that's going to accept any honor has to be honestly aware of their own level of spiritual development. We're not all the same. Just because I was in, the movement for 40 years, 50 years, I'm not the same of the next person who did what. We're not. We're all at different stages of development. And, consequently, what we have to, take what we can actually digest as far as honor goes, make sure we're not getting indigestion or a swollen head. Some people have the spiritual capacity, they can digest 100 japatis without getting ill, then that is fine. But if you can only digest one, then that's what you should eat. That's what you should limit yourself to. Just because somebody else can eat 100 doesn't mean you have to try to. So it is essential, and it falls on the senior person to, learn how to accept gifts and honor and praise, because that is part of the Vaishnava process. And sometimes it can be difficult. But to deny others that chance, that's also not right. So it's a delicate balance, and it's personal. And we need to learn how to accept things in the light of passing the praise upwards to the spiritual master in Krishna. And if we notice that praise is going to our head, if we do not have the capacity to direct everything upwards, then we must internally acknowledge that and be wary and avoid accepting more than what is healthy. Because Maya devises more and more subtle challenges for the sadhaka as we progress. So, we can never get to the point to think, yeah, well, now I'm a good devotee. Everybody thinks I'm a good devotee. I must be a good devotee. Oh, that's the beginning of the end. So, because we've seen over the years many very sincere devotees, many devotees who did amazing service, many humble devotees, become very popular speakers, even gurus, and they become highly praised and glorified. But then we see how some, over time, that slowly, often imperceptibly, just erodes away one's humility. And, so preachers have to be so self-aware, so cautious, so aware of these dangers and how it can adversely affect one's spiritual life. And you can't just make a blanket policy, well, nobody should be honored, then, that's not the point. Instead, this is a very individual issue that one must be, astutely self-aware and brutally honest about oneself, And even the greatest gurus have shown caution in accepting honor. There's so many examples, like Lokanath Goswami. He, when Narottam wanted him to be his spiritual master, he told Sri Jiva, and Sri Jiva was like, I don't know, he's vowed not to do this. He doesn't see that he's qualified. He doesn't want honor. He doesn't want to have disciples. He doesn't, and, then there's Gopal Bhatta. He said, I don't put my name, he told Krishnadas Kaviraj, don't put my name in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So these are the most elevated devotees that showed the caution, and so what to speak of us, we're practically right out of the gutter. Myself, I'm speaking for myself, but just a few years in Krishna consciousness with hardly any piety in the background, we got to be careful. And I don't think I've ever read any warnings in Shastra about being too careful, that, oh no, you shouldn't be too careful. But we do hear repeatedly about the danger of pratishta, pride. And actually I have a nice quote here that I will read. It's a devotee asked Sridhar Maharaj one time, Srila Prabhupada's godbrother, he asked him, well, how can we detect pratishta within ourselves? And it's a very beautiful response that I will read. And he answered, that comes with the development of internal perfection and our continuous thankfulness to Gurudev. It is necessary to understand and feel that everything comes from above. I have nothing. I have no position, and therefore my present situation always depends on the mercy of my Gurudev. It may be withdrawn from me at any moment. Whatever I may have is not a fixed thing in me. It is not a matter of right, but is only extended grace in me. The moment it is withdrawn, I'm nowhere. I am Tatastha Shakti and have no capital. I am working on the capital of my master. I have no capital of my own. We must be able to remain on such a plane of thinking and realize that without his help, Without His grace, I am in darkness. My fate is dark. As long as He extends His grace in me, I can see. If the light is withdrawn, the eye is helpless. We are to realize a position that it is not our birthright. By our birth, we are marginal potency. And whatever we have found, it is the gracious extension of Svarup Shakti in us. Our Guru and the Vaishnavas are the proprietors. It is their wealth and property. It all belongs to them. That is beautiful. So, these were some new things to learn and to deal with, to be careful about in speaking and traveling. I saw how easily devotees can, put someone up on a pedestal. But we also know how easily one can fall from that raised platform. And ironically, I also noticed that many devotees who are so quick to highly praise a visiting devotee were often not generous at all with their appreciation towards the local devotees around them, even senior devotees around them. So this is that lopsided praise issue, which I spoke about in a previous talk. Kind of too high a praise for some and too little for others. So, getting the right balance is a very important thing to work on. And so with that, although I'm going to have to continue because I've got more from these years, so I guess it's going to be another talk. I don't want to go on too long. So I will finish there. Hare Krishna.